Welcome to It Came from the Grove, our paranormal, weird history, and world folklore podcast. Tonight we'll be talking The Boy and the Heron, Fairy Census 2, plus encounters with weregoats, dragons, griffins, pixies, trolls, and a whole lot more. I am Wistmoor, VTuber druid, fairy researcher, strange news hunter, illustrator of wonders, and cryptid hunted.
Amazing. I'm Wisteria. Hi. I am potion maker, meme brewer, herbalist, mythology enthusiast, and many more.
So yeah, welcome to our show. We got a fun one for you today. And we did just watch The Boy and the Heron last night, and we're gonna tie it into today's show. And something we have been waiting for. I don't know about you, but we have been waiting months for the Fairy Census 2 to drop.
You have been waiting for it.
Okay, maybe just me.
Can you move your potion so I can see chat?
I'll give you chat.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just me. I've been very excitedly waiting, constantly checking for Fairy Census 2. And we got it. We're going to cover it. We got a lot of very strange stories. These are contemporary, modern fairy encounters, is why it's so exciting. And there's 500 encounters in there. Some really good ones in it. Got a few we've already pulled out, and we might just pick up some random ones as well.
Do you remember the other week, whatever, when I was washing the dishes and I saw a gremlin on the porch of your neighbor?
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many fairy encounters are due to poor eyesight.
Listen. Nothing quite like when I woke up this morning and I went into the living room being like, "Hi, Wistmoor," and he didn't say anything, and I knew he was out there. I'm like, "You busy, huh?" And nothing. I'm like, okay, I'll go put my contacts on, just wait and see. And he was truly not there, so you were not ignoring me.
Yep, I was out in the garden planting some, what were they?
Cauliflower.
Yeah, cauliflower.
Nothing quite like Wisteria talking to herself, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure there were some invisible fairies keeping you company. Some brownies in the cupboard.
Yeah, being like, wow, she's weird. I really like this thumbnail.
Good.
It came together so fast.
Unfortunately, we can't see the fairy riding the squirrel because I'm covering it up.
Move, Wistmore.
Alright, let's dive into our first story of the day. We have a newspaper account in Japan from 1908 of a dragon hunt.
Wow.
And we are going to tie this into The Boy with the Heron because The Boy with the Heron happens in Japan and it's around 1923, so it's around the same time frame.
Mm-hmm. But the boy with the heron, he was not hunting, but kept looking for the heron and not for a dragon.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I have a newfound fear of herons after the movie.
Yeah, and when we talk about The Boy and the Heron, it's going to be spoiler free, so if you have not seen the movie, really all we're going to do is hype you up to see it, and we won't have anything spoiled for you.
Yes.
Alright, so let's read this report of a dragon hunt in Japan, 1908. Oops. Here we go. Thousands of peasants in the province of Sesbu are engaged in a dragon hunt. They believe that a majestic dragon, the imaginary king of animals, inhabits the remote region of Ikeda, where there is a vast unexplored bamboo jungle. And they have flocked to the jungle from all over the province with offerings of rice and money with which to lure the dragon into captivity. Wisteria is crackling her little treat bag to lure dragons.
I'm throwing.
The story of the dragon dates back to February 23rd, when the heavy shower of what native correspondent describes as dark-colored rain, wow, fell in torrents and shook the earth to its foundations. That's crazy. Towards nightfall...
So like an earthquake.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a meteor shower, but nothing was flaming. And in The Boy the Heron, they have this meteor that lands, and that is the tower.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Towards nightfall, the dragon appeared and ascended into the clouds. As soon as it disappeared, the rain stopped. The night one, Sinjuk dreamed a sacred dream.
Whoop whoop, Melantris.
Whoa! Whoop whoop, back to Melantris. Glad to have you.
How's Melantris doing today?
Yeah, excited to have you as part of our conversation.
We are talking fairies and dragons, and I'm eating snacks.
Yes.
Nothing changed here.
Alright, so we have this Sardurjiro Shinoki having a sacred dream in which the dragon appeared in holy apparel.
Holy apparel, okay.
Yeah, it's wearing stuff. And said that the day succeeded in ascending to the heavens. Oh, that had that day succeeded in ascending to the heavens. I guess the dragon. In order to sanctify the jungle in which had been living, he endowed it with a special healing virtue for all diseases. Invalids visiting the place would be cured. The news spread rapidly, and hundreds of invalids and healthy men and women began to assail the jungle with greedy prayers. An offertory box, thoughtfully erected in Sardurjiro Shinoki, was soon filled with coppers. Offerings of rice, etc., were scattered all through the jungle. Then the rumor became current that the dragon had returned, and the number of pilgrims increased. Various devices were suggested whereby the dragon might be ensnared, and thus forced to work many miracles. At the present time, the pilgrimages are increasing, as well as the daily offerings. Sardurjiro Shinoki is the owner of the forest, and his intentions are beginning to be suspected. Oh, so this news article is saying that it might be a hoax to get people to make offerings in the forest, where they think it's an offering to dragon for healing blessings.
But it's actually for the owner of the forest.
Yeah.
What if he has a pet dragon, though?
Yeah, then you get best of both worlds. The truth, and he gets paid.
Yeah. Melantris is feeling a bit sucky, no?
Well, I'm glad you could keep us company, even if you're not feeling well.
Head pets.
So, one neat thing that I noticed about The Boy and the Heron was that it was this sort of folktale story that had common elements with worldwide folklore. So you've got the breaking of taboos that leads to a curse or bad events. You've got shape-shifting creatures that aren't what they seem, and a bit malevolent but not evil. These sort of yokai or fairy creatures. You've got the spirit realm that isn't necessarily the land of the dead, but is kind of like a bordering realm. And what other relations to folklore did you see in this movie?
Oh, the myth of life and death and how life is formed.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a play with time, like going backwards and forwards.
A death purgatory kind of place.
Yeah, where time is kind of malleable. So it is really interesting sort of using these elements and writing a whole new story off of it. And this is something that could be done with any folklore, and it'll resonate with people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we are actually uncovering the universal laws of folklore today.
Yes. Ooh, and even the little carved dolls that resemble people. Many cultures have them. I think I saw them in Egyptian tombs, where they would resemble servants there, so that they can serve you and protect you in the afterlife or even in today's life. And this is why you have little sculptures of people or animal spirits to look after you.
Yeah, very good catch. And we do have an Egyptian story today, too. We have Egyptian griffins. But next is dragons in Switzerland. We have a real encounter.
These are expensive dragons.
Expensive?
In Switzerland, everything is expensive.
This is from the 1600s. An account from like a major official. So it's not just some villager trying to make a tale to earn a drink for the night. This is somebody with credibility and a reputation
trying
to
earn more than just a drink.
So this is his account. In 1619, and this is translated, reading here. In 1619, as I was contemplating the serene sky by night, I saw a very bright dragon with flapping wings go from a cave in a great rock and the mount called Pilatus toward another cave known as Flue. On the opposite side of the lake, Lucerne, its wings were agitated with much celerity. His body was long as well as its tail and neck. Its head was that of a serpent with teeth, and when it was flying, sparks were coming out of it, like embers thrown by an incandescent iron, struck by smiths on an anvil. At first, I thought it was a meteor, but after observing more closely, I saw it was truly a dragon, from the recognizable motion of its members. This I write to you, your reverence, in case you should doubt that dragons truly exist in nature. That's a pretty cool story.
Mm-hmm. Melandri says, stay a while and listen Wistmoor. You have under it the non-translated version.
Yeah.
Why don't you give it a go?
So, this was from Mundus Subterraneus Quo Universi Denic Naturae Divitae. Does that make any sense to you?
Very much so. What?
So this, what was his name? Athanasius Kircher is the witness. And he was the prefect of Uri County. So it does bring into the folklore similarities, the meteor, the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of sky phenomena in folklore, and usually relates to dragons.
Mm-hmm. I read this story at some point about a Romanian ice dragon. It was like a word of mouth fairy tale that's some guy written down.
Okay.
And he was an ice dragon. And then during some sort of special night, I think it was New Year's Eve or something like that, you could see his breath, which I think it was like the... In Romania, we call it krivac, which means like the winter wind that comes really cold. There's a name for it. It's not just any kind of winter. Northern winter.
Right, yeah. We have something similar, but I can't remember the name of it.
Whatever, that. So that people assume that it's the dragon's icy breath that was breathing up on the sky, and then as night began to fall and everything, there was this rain with huge bulbs of ice. So
like hail.
yeah, but they said that those are the souls of unborn kids, and
Whoa.
he froze them all up in the sky because like kids came from the stars, the shooting stars, and the stars that were twinkling, those were unborn souls. And with his breath, he froze them all, and then they all came crashing down on Earth, and you could see these balls of ice on the ground, which is a natural phenomenon. But then it was so big that people freaked out that for the next year they wouldn't have kids born.
Wow. And that does tie into the Boy and the Heron too, because they have the wara that are
These
souls being born.
marshmallow-looking people.
Yeah, and a lot of folklore, you have an explanation of why things are. And then the dragon story you just told is sort of how souls are born into bodies and why there might be difficulties with childbirth in a particular era. Interesting stuff. Thank you. Before we leave dragons, we've got dragonettes, Italian dragonettes. So we have an English writer. Let's see. In Tuscany, there is an island in Tuscany pertaining to the domain of Count Ildebrandino, in which there are winged snakes which look like dragons. As soon as they take to the air, they infect the bodies of people beneath them so severely that they strike them down with diarrhea, and distressing flux is only cured when sleep overtakes them. So this kind of sounds like an explanation for disease, cholera.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting account of flying snakes being the cause of gastrointestinal problems.
Don't you think it's also like a way to wink wink nudge nudge at bird flu or something like that?
Maybe. Okay.
Andrew says, "Oh no, a shit dragon."
I bet you didn't know those existed. Put those in D&D Monster Manual.
I want to play a shit dragon.
Yeah, that's the kind of commentary we needed, Melantris. Thank you.
Yes.
So now we've got mermaid eggs and fairies.
We got a recipe.
Yeah, and there's this other sort of commonality in world folklore about rules. And the rules don't necessarily make sense, but if you break the rules, something happens. Or it's like an allusion to something that's just doesn't make any sense, and it leads to kind of like the sense of wonder and mystery. So here we have mermaids talking about egg water and the benefits of egg water and the value of egg water.
Melantra says, highbrow commentary always, yes. Before you get into your egg story, I have to say, last night we played the Florida Man game.
Yeah.
And one of the news articles that was in there was Florida Man eats an ungodly amount of number of crocodile eggs.
Alligator eggs.
Alligator eggs, there we go. And he ends up in the ER or something.
Yeah, he contracted salmonella.
Yes. And at that point, I think even 2 alligator eggs in your breakfast is impressive, let alone like however many he's eaten.
Yeah, so this game actually has true stories in it, and that's part of the game, is guessing the true stories. So there we go, we have a true story of a Florida man eating alligator eggs and catching salmonella.
What is one kind of egg that you won't eat out of ethics?
I don't think there is one. I just there's just the disgust factor that would prevent me from eating particular eggs.
Out of ethics, I wouldn't eat penguin eggs. They have enough problems with this.
Okay.
They're pudgy, chubby, and short feetsies.
Yeah, well, we'll see what penguin egg water might, what magical properties it might have. All right, so this appears in Waldron's description of the Isle of Man. Some people who lived near the coast, having observed the mermaid's behavior, spread large nets, made of small but very strong cords, upon the ground, and watched at a convenient distance for their approach. So this is another encounter story. It's not just a folk tale or a fairy tale that's made up to entertain. It's just an account of somebody's experience.
So let me get this straight. The nets were from the mermaids or from the people?
From the people.
Okay.
Okay. The night they had laid the snare, but one happened to come who was no sooner set down, the nose who held the strings of the net drew them with a sudden jerk, and enclosed their prize beyond all possibility of escaping. On opening their net and examining the captive, the largeness of her breasts and the beauty of her complexion, it was found to be female. Nothing could be more lovely, more exactly formed in all parts above the waist, resembling a complete young woman, but below that all fish with fins and a huge spreading tail. She was carried to a house and used very tenderly, nothing but liberty being denied. So she was treated well, is what that's saying.
So basically they found, with like the largest of her breasts and everything, they found their mermaid waifu.
Yes, mermaid waifu carried off to a house. But though they set before her the best provisions, she could not be prevailed on it to eat or drink, neither could they get a word from her, though they knew these creatures were not without the gift of speech, having heard them talk to each other, when sitting regaling themselves on the seaside. So this isn't just a one-off encounter. They have seen mermaids and mermen multiple times. But this is one incident where they actually happened to capture one.
Mm-hmm.
They kept her in this manner 3 days, but perceiving she began to look very ill notwithstanding, and fearing some calamity would befall the island if they should keep her till she died, they agreed to let her return to the element she liked best, and the third night set upon their door, opened their door, which as soon as she beheld, she raised herself from the place where she was then lying, and gliding with incredible swiftness on her tail to the seaside. Wow. So she just kind of like slid on her tail to the ocean.
Like I'm sliding in your DMs.
Okay.
Melantra says good on them for finding the waifu.
They followed at a distance and saw her plunged into the water, where she was met by a great number of her own species, one of whom asked what she had observed among the people on earth. Nothing very wonderful, answered she, but they are so very ignorant. What are we as a people ignorant of that the mermaids know? What is the mermaid wisdom? As to throw away the water they boil their eggs in. This question and her reply, they told me, was distinctly heard by those who stood on the shore to watch what passed. So we have this mermaid that was perplexed by our tradition of boiling eggs and throwing away the water. There is some inherent value that all merfolk understand in the boiling of, or the water of boiled eggs.
I guess calcium.
Is it just calcium, or is there something more magical?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to try the water from where the eggs boil?
Sure, yeah. I don't know if there's been a scientific study of boiled egg water.
Do you want to do one?
Maybe. I think we have another egg water. Yeah, we have another egg water story in here.
Melantry says, huh, snarky fish broth.
This is about a changeling in Britain. And so egg broth or egg water seems to be a well-known um, gift or of material value to the Fae. So here we go. Some wanted her to put the child out on a hot shovel, others to make egg broth before it, that is, to boil eggshells, and offer it the water they were boiled in for its dinner, which would make it speak at once. Others to keep its head under water for 20... Oh, so this is how you can identify if you have a changeling child. Like, as if your child has been swapped by a fairy. And one of it is to present it with egg water and see if it, is excited and consumes the egg broth. And the other is to drown the kid. And if it drowns, then it was the real kid. So that's a more unfortunate way to find out if your child is a changeling, but seems much easier just to go with egg water.
Me researching egg water now.
We have another one here. The Brewery of Eggshells. This is from a 19th century folklore. The child was lying for a wonder quite easy and quiet in the cradle, every now and then cocking his eye, that would twinkle as keen as a star in frosty night, over at the great fire and the big pot upon it, and he looked on with great attention at Mrs. Sullivan's breaking the eggs and putting down the egg shells to boil.
Can I read?
Yeah, what you got?
So, steeping them in water leaches the minerals and calcium out of shells into the water. This water aids in building of strong bones and aids in relief of bone pain, joint pain, and inflammation. And it's even found beneficial in preventing and easing arthritis. So it's a thing, and people steep their shells in water and use that water in smoothies and whatnot because it doesn't taste like anything, but it helps with a lot of things apparently.
Interesting. Yeah, I also know that it is used for fertilizing plants too.
Fun fact, when I was little and I was in need of calcium, but like hardcore calcium, not just a tablet here and there, the Flintstone pills, my mom would crush up the eggshells and make it like a powder thing and mix it with honey, and then she would give it to me every morning, and that helped. Look at me, I'm full of calcium right now.
Very cool. And do you remember walking out of the theater last night and there was these two ladies behind us talking about the movie?
I didn't understand anything. I don't know what that was about and why nothing made sense. I don't know. They were just so annoying. Everything had to make sense for them, and if they didn't, it was an okay movie, but for their experience, it was just not worth it because in the end, nothing really connected. I'm like, yeah, it did.
Yeah, so my thoughts coming out of it was like, wow, this is using like universal themes of folklore, and it actually made sense. And it wasn't just some kind of American movie about dreams and
that don't come true.
Or even just like having dreaming physics or just random wild stuff. Everything kind of had meaning and a purpose.
Can you give me my mug?
Yep.
Thank.
But there are kinds of things in folklore and The Boy and the Heron that are meant to be kind of mysterious, that kind of bring the sense of wonder. And it doesn't have to be answered what it means, because if it gets answered, there goes the mystery.
Doesn't it bug you about the mundane world that you actually can understand everything and there's no mystery to it, there's no magic to it, and therefore when you don't understand it and you just let it up to the laws of, as you said, the taboos of folklore and everything, and you don't understand them but you believe them and you follow them, then that brings that magic back into the world. But when you try to understand everything, to make connections, you're blind to the fairy realm, you're blind to the magic realm.
Yeah, second sight is what was talked about in Robert Kirk's The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns, and Fairies. And that's the ability to see the supernatural. And I think you make a very interesting point. There are things that happen, paranormal, supernatural things that science can explain, that people the world over experience, and it doesn't make it a hoax. It doesn't make it a delusion. These are just things that are beyond science, that are absolutely incapable to be described by science, because a lot of them are kind of one-offs where it has to be an anecdote, and anecdotes are completely unscientific.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that transition to our story about the Tennessee centaur.
I'm the segue queen.
The reason I call it a good segue is because this is a manufactured centaur that was presented and made to sort of bring wonder into the world. And there's this like excitement that I have about bringing wonder in the world, but should we go as far as to make hoaxes to bring that wonder in? I say no, but it is very tempting.
It is really needed.
Well, one law of folklore is if you have something physical left behind, then that means it probably is not true. Well, okay, so I wouldn't call this a law of folklore, but I would just call it a good way to identify a hoax, because these experiences are paranormal and I think outside of the regular perception of reality.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have physical evidence,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good indicator that it is a hoax. Like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Because there's really no Bigfoot evidence that he leaves behind. The bodies are always turned out to be hoaxes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Oh, isn't it that most of the stories about supernatural things end with, and it disappeared without a trace, and
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
never seen again? Yeah. And the way you can verify something really being reliable is to have a lot of encounters from different people that would not have anything to gain from telling the story.
Right.
And the story somewhat matches in an 80% capacity because everyone perceives things differently, and therefore you have a trail there. But just having evidence as a picture, a video, an object, or something like that, it really feels like it's of the physical realm and not the supernatural one, and therefore not really worth looking into.
Yeah, and I think the way that it's handled in folklore is kind of like the story of the Selkie, where this guy falls in love with a Selkie, but he has one rule: he's not allowed to break one taboo, and that is to like open a drawer that has her Selkie skin in it, because if he ever does, then she's gonna leave. So that's kind of like evidence that she has, but if it's ever witnessed, she'll just completely disappear.
Yeah, so the moment you uncover something, you can cling on to the entire story and the entire feeling is gone.
Yeah.
these are the same kind of powerful feelings and things that you can live through, just like other concepts like love and like faith and like everything that is there, and it's not tangible, but you know that once you try to uncover why and how and when and everything like that, it becomes less and less impressive.
Yeah, and it's better to just enjoy.
Yeah.
Enjoy while you have it. But if you are able to see the screen, we have
The pony man.
a centaur that was at the University of Tennessee up until this year. The something, it's been removed from the exhibit, but it's a like a research skeleton mixed with a donkey, and I think it's from 1994. There's even this spear in the centaur to make it look like it got killed and was fossilized in mud.
Can I give my creepy take?
Okay.
You know how during your lifetime, maybe you can be asked by those research hospitals if you want to donate your organs or your body or everything
Right.
like that. Well, if you do, you don't really get to know what you donated for. Well, if anything is made like this kind of sculpture with half body of a human, half of an animal, this is what I want my body donated
Wow,
to.
I'm immortalized as a cryptid.
Yes,
That's pretty cool.
to the Cryptid Society.
So maybe you can just have it in your will. This is how you want to be buried.
Not very. Like, if there's an opportunity for an artistic project, make me look cool.
Okay.
I don't want to be buried. I want to be seen.
All right, we got weregoats.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of weregoats?
Like the not deer.
No, like werewolves, but goats.
So then, are they the predator or the prey?
Um,
Both. It's
I think that
so
makes them
cannibal.
predatory.
Do you know that goats eat chickens?
No, I didn't.
I showed you a video the other day of a black goat following a chicken in a chicken coop, and then it ate its after. And it's people who have both goats and chickens know that if you leave them together, the goats usually would eat a chicken.
Whoa.
And if they get them, the chicken in a closed parameter and something like that, so they're not strange to eat flesh.
Yeah.
Can I pull up the video? It's super creepy.
What?
Can I pull up the video? It's super creepy. I want to show it.
Okay.
Milan just finds it funny.
Let's see. So these are goatmen from the United States. We have some sightings. Where is the encounter? So from 1990. There's actually a book called Goatmen, Flesh or Folklore by J. Nathan Couch. It's all about weregoats. And some of these sightings are second or third hand. Others, though, they are first hand, and the author has talked to witnesses that have come face to face with goat men. Let's see. And the sightings go back to the 1960s. So 1960s to 1990s.
I sent it.
Okay.
It's on Instagram.
Oh, let me not do that. So can you talk while I pull it up?
Yes. So, hi. I don't know what you were reading. I was looking up a link, but I have to say, I went through the chat where I send you most of my links. Wow, I send you a lot of stupid stuff per day. It's entertaining stupid, but you're the recipient of most of my scrolling sessions. Isn't it cool? He thinks he's cool. So then this will be a really creepy video, because apparently goats do walk on 2 legs. Look at it, doesn't it just look demonic?
Oh, they can't see it just yet. I'm pulling it up.
I was asking you.
Okay. Oh, wow. I can see how there would be stories of goat men. Wait, this is the wrong window. Sorry. Did it again. Here we go. Because if you see a little goat walking on 2 legs and having a chicken dinner, I can see how that would be interpreted as a
leading
weregoat.
that chicken in there and is walking on 2 legs, and it's a black goat too, and it's just so unnatural. And that chicken is like, it's hypnotized. And then the door closes, and then he begins his criminal acts.
That is creepy and amazing.
See what people say there in the comments. If I was a peasant seeing this in medieval time, I would 100% believe that the devil is real.
Yeah, because it's like you said, hypnotize the chicken.
All fun and games until the ghost starts speaking Latin, exactly.
Alright, we have another goat man encounter here.
Goat man. Say goat man.
So this is in Canada, Labrador, Newfoundland area. Let me see if I can get the date. Early 1900s, 1919. One year, while visiting the head of Hamilton Inlet, a Scotch settler came aboard to ask my advice about a large animal that had appeared around his house. Though he had sat up night after night with his gun, he had never seen it. His children had seen it several times disappearing into the trees. The French agent of Revillon Freres, 20 miles away, had come over, and together they had tracked it, measured the footmarks in the mud, and even fenced some of them around. The stride was about 8 feet. That's a big stride. The marks of the cloven hooves of an ox. The children described the creature as looking like a huge hairy man, and several nights the dogs had been driven growling from the house into the water. Twice the whole family had heard the creature prowling around the cottage and tapping at the doors and windows. The now grown-up children persist in saying that they saw this wild thing. Their house is 20 miles up the large Grand River and 150 miles from the coast. That is even creepier. This would be like a ginormous goat man.
Wasn't this Krampus?
It sounds similar to a Krampus kind of creature. All right, how about some Egyptian griffins?
Okay.
Look at this. Painted on a wall in Egypt.
Oh, it has a lot of nipples.
Yeah, it looks like a female griffin. So this is in a Egyptian tomb, Central Egypt, and appears amongst precious illustrations of day-to-day life under the pharaohs. So it's kind of like the story of Atlantis, where the Egyptian priest is relating the story and is giving all of these day-to-day life facts, and mixed in there is the fact that there are nereids riding dolphins.
Milan, just like my nipple comment. Thanks for saying it, Herbie. I'm here to point out the obvious.
That'll get people checking out the screen.
Yes.
Screen.
Yes. Look at the screen, guys. There are nipples on the screen. Quick.
We've got our own Twitch meta going on, but it's YouTube and it's griffin nipples.
Exactly. It's the best kind. You don't get griffin nipples anywhere else. And look at that really fashionable scarf he's wearing. It's almost like yours, Wistmoor.
Yeah.
Checkered scarf. Maybe you are Egyptian too. Are you?
maybe descended from ancient Egyptians. But yeah, it looks like it has a leash, this little scarf, because it's got this leash attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was a tamed griffin. So they're saying that this is a fairly common creature in Egyptian iconography. So this isn't just a one-off on a wall. And on the wall it says it has a name. Her name is Sagat.
Okay.
That's an unfortunate name for a creature with lots of breasts.
What does that mean, or what?
Saggy.
Oh, no. Wistmoor.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, moving on.
Wistmoor being a 5-year-old.
We got some more Egyptian creatures on walls. One of them looks like another griffin.
He looks like an ibis bird with cat legs.
Yeah, and then we've got this dog snake.
Nessie looking monster.
And then this jackal
Lope.
with a lion tail.
Yes.
Jackalope, I like that.
Melanchi says Segi Hegi.
Yep, I better move on. Okay, we've got exploding witch bottles.
Now this is what I want to sell.
So there are these things called witch bottles, and they're... Okay, so a witch bottle is a ceramic glass, sometimes iron bottles, into which cursed man or woman puts parts of their own body and sharp objects.
Like a finger or something.
Yeah. Parts of their own body might be hair, nails, and even urine. Sharp things might be nails, pins, and thorns, so this is mixed into the jar. And the logic behind it is that the cursor, typically the local witch, had put something of herself into her victim. So if the victim put something of themselves into a witch bottle, then the witch would start to suffer and eventually surrender her power back over to the cursed person. Once you had a witch bottle, there were various strategies. Typical witch bottles were buried beneath or near the hearth, or on holy or sacred land. But another possibility would be to boil the witch bottle, trusting that the witch would die when the bottle exploded. We got a witch bomb.
So it's like the witch dies of fever?
I don't know. Let's see what this...
So she cursed you and then you pull a reverse Uno card on her?
Exactly.
Wow.
So this is from 1900, not too long ago. On Saturday morning, the lifeless body of Stephen Chopin, aged 68, was found hanging to a beam in an outbuilding adjoining his picturesque little cottage at Hadley, this is Essex. Deceased was a retired blacksmith and lately suffered from gout. Many years ago, he forged the celebrated iron witch bottles for a notorious local wizard named Murrell.
Murrell.
In these bottles were placed blood, water, fingernails, hairs, and pins. When screwed up airtight, these bottles were set on fire by means of a charm against witches and frequently burst, thus signalizing the destruction of the latter's diabolical influences. Chopin told an anecdote of the first bottle, which he said refused to be welded until Murrell, the wizard, arrived and blew the fire when all went well. Wow, so this blacksmith teams up with a local wizard to fight local witches with bombs.
Can I give my fun fact? Nowadays scam.
Okay.
There are places like the crystal places that you can buy crystal jewelry from, and people make rings out of hematite.
Yeah.
Because it's really aesthetic and everything, but hematite is a really brittle rock.
And magnetic.
Yeah, but it's brittle. So they make just like the wedding bands entirely out of hematite. And those are supposed to absorb all your negative energy
Yeah.
and all your problems and sorrows and whatever. And when it absorbed enough and you're free of them, it breaks, it shatters.
Hmm.
But because they are so brittle, they just shatter and you have to buy another one. So I feel like it's a good marketing strategy because you
Yeah.
don't say, no, my products are brittle. No, you have a lot of bad energy.
Yeah.
And then I want to make these bottle charms, almost like bowls of some sort that you carry with yourself, like a keychain.
Okay.
And then you write on little pieces of paper all your sorrows and all your depression moments and everything. And then when it shatters and breaks, that means you're free of them because they will shatter anyway.
Interesting. And that might be using the effect of placebo to overcome these particular troubles.
Mm-hmm. Visit my Etsy shop.
You know, it was around, I think, 2008, 2010. eBay had a lot of haunted items you could buy.
Not anymore?
Um,
Oh, you haven't gone into that part of eBay.
I haven't visited that part of eBay, but I know it was really big back then. And they would sell these rings and necklaces and gems and like charge more because it was haunted by a particular spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting that that was really a thing on eBay for quite a while.
Yeah, well, now you can get them from the local antique shop. They have some haunted items.
Yeah, they literally listed this, what was it called? It was a chair that you walk people in.
Chariots. No.
No. But it was this French like sedan chairs, I think is what it's called. And it said it was haunted and they were charging like $700 for it. But
It's worth it. You get a spirit with it too.
yeah, and it was like from 1700, so that's a good price for it.
You can buy that kind of an object and a friend with that money.
Yeah.
Friend or foe, it doesn't matter. It's a good price for someone's soul. The guy with the bench.
So this is a story about pixies, or being pixie-led. And this kind of gets into witch curses or just kind of enchanting. So pixie-led is sort of a way, or describing a situation where somebody's mesmerized. So that goat walking into the chicken house with the chicken was pixie-led. Okay, the most famous man in these parts as a wizard was old Winter of Ipswich. We got another wizard story. My father was in early life apprenticed to him, and after that the servant to Major White, who lived in Stewupland at Sheepgate Hall. A farmer lost some blocks of wood from his yard and consulted Winter about the thief. Winter of Ipswich. By mutual agreement, Winter spent the night at the farmer's house and set the latter to watch, telling him not to speak to anybody he saw. And here we go. We have like a law you're not supposed to break, and if it does, something bad will happen. About 12, a laborer living near came into the woodyard and hoisted a block on his shoulder. He left the yard and entered the meadow, out of which lay a stile into his own guard. And when he got into the field, he could neither find the stile nor leave the field. I'm not sure what a stile is.
Men interested. Ah, yes. Oh, Winter of Ipswich.
Yeah, your wizard buddy. And round the field he had to march with this heavy block on his shoulder. So the stile is a heavy block. Affrighted yet not able to stop walking until ready to die with exhaustion. The farmer and Winter watching him from the window until from pure compassion Winter went up to him, spoke, dissolved the charm, and relieved him from his load. Very interesting.
So do you think being charmed and being led to another place, just like following someone, that has put a charm on you? Is it a thing that happens?
It's something that's happened to me.
And
I've told you the story.
I know, but did you feel bad? Did you feel in a trance? Did you feel like you had any of your own free will?
I broke out of it, and it was very weird. It was very eerie.
Did you feel bad after you broke out of it?
No, I just thought this is not me. Why I've never done anything like this before. Why would I be following this person?
Mm-hmm.
Weird stuff.
You never wonder what would have happened if you went through with following all the way?
Yeah, that's kind of like the mystery that I'm glad I didn't solve. Okay, we promised trolls. Oh, one other thing I wanted to address that sort of ties in with the boy and the heron is that there's a few of those times where the girl tells him, "Don't let go of the door, or you'll never be able to find it again." So there's these rules that you break it, something bad will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the whole taboo with being in the birthing room. And since that was broken, bad stuff happened.
Yeah.
So we've got some more universal laws of folklore told through the boy and the heron.
Do you think it's bad that I also tend to cross the Romanian folklore? Like the don't buy vintage furniture.
Maybe you're tempting fate.
Don't just put your purse on the floor. I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't do it. He did it.
But yeah, we are definitely divorced of these superstitions here in America. But there are some interesting folklores that can be tied in with superstitions, like in Appalachia and some places of Canada. But it's not the popular culture anymore.
Melancholy says better you didn't find out.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Mm.
And I did promise trolls. So here we go. This is 1980. A British psychic is in Finland and tells the story about being tucked in to bed by a troll.
That's lovely. Having a babysitter troll.
Yeah. So, oh, and I want to say that I didn't choose any of these articles.
They chose you.
Based on tying them in with these universal laws that we're discussing. We're just kind of going through interesting articles of first-hand encounters and seeing what ties in.
Okay.
So I think it's really interesting that there is something in each one of these that ties into a particular universal law of folklore.
Okay.
So this is one of the times when I have a thesis and it all works out. Okay, so let's see. There were people in the room, perhaps thinking I was asleep. They had come to inspect the strange creature in the midst from England, talking about himself. So he's an English person, he's British, he's in Finland, and there are these creatures coming to check out the Englishman. Cautiously, out of politeness rather than fear, I opened one eye slightly, and I was right. There were people in the room, but they were little people, no higher than my bed. They climbed up and pushed pillows back behind my head, or my back, tucking me inside the blanket like a child. I felt like Gulliver, but I knew their intention was to look after me. Could these have been laps? I wondered. I'm not sure what a lap is. I had heard that laps were not very tall, but these were tiny, like little people. As suddenly as they had come, they went. The chattering ceased, and there was total silence. I drifted off to sleep. Where are the giggles coming from? I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So he got tucked in bed by trolls, and this is a first-hand encounter.
Oh no, I read it myself.
It's okay. So this is really interesting. This is 1980. And we'll use this as a transition into Fairy Census 2.
Yeah.
500 encounters since 2017. That's 5 years of fairy encounters, all in one PDF. Oh, that's not my BAM. Bam!
Bam.
So when is this encounter? This is 2010, so we don't get a specific year. This is a kind of a long encounter. We're just going to skip down. I found myself in a darkened room. I'm not sure how I ended up there. It was pixie-led, maybe. There was a wardrobe from which a scuffling noise emanated. I opened it up and found a small stone statue.
It's Narnia.
Yeah, and back to the little statues.
Yes.
Which came alive the moment I touched it. Which certainly gave me the creeps. Yeah, so that statue in Boy and the Heron comes alive.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Oh, lost my spot. The moment I touched it, which certainly gave me the creeps. The creature was about knee height. It had a wizened head that reminded me of a Native American chieftain. Or maybe chief. Although the gender of it was unknown, its skin was grayish green. I remember clearly that it had some form of ritual scarification on its face. 3 curved lines were cut into each cheek.
Like whiskers.
Interesting, yeah. Overall, there was a sense that it was tremendously ancient. As I wrote down immediately after my immediate reaction, aha, here is a brownie, since it was resident in the cupboard. So what the census is a lot of the articles I've been reading today are from this blog called strangehistory.net. Also, Beachcombing is the name of the blog. And the guy that runs this site, he's a fairy researcher. And he's collected through putting out calls for people's encounters from all over the world, but mostly English speaking, about their encounters with the Fae. And there was a Fairy Census 1 that was from 2014 to 2017, I think. And this is the next iteration. So there's a little bit of background about what's going on here. That's unfortunate. Okay, so we've got another one. This is in Kent, England, from the 2010s. At first, bees with uppermost in my mind. I was about to duck and run when I realized what was happening. I called to my son, and 2 of us stood transfixed as tiny, and I mean proper tiny, winged people flew about us, catching the late autumn sun. My son eventually asked, "Are they fairies, Daddy?" "I'm guessing so, son, but different from the ones of my youth." I saw many small folk as a child, and went actively looking in my teens. I'm Irish by parentage, so I see nothing strange in this. So Irish and Icelandic people still have a lot of fairy beliefs. It's common. My 12-year-old daughter and wife entered the garden, wheelbarrow full of vegetables. My son called to his sister to come see, and she ran down. But the small host was definitely thinning. She, however, squealed at what she saw and called to my wife to come see. My son said they're gone now, and went indoors. As my wife walked down to stand beside us, she believed it to be a game. I could see it in her face. But as she stood with a happy smile on her face, she clearly saw one. I saw her expression change, and she gasped, "Oh my God, what is that? It looks like a..." But we have trailing off. She never said the word, but I could see it in her eyes. My daughter danced happily in the garden for a bit, singing, "We've got fairies!" whilst my wife just looked at me stunned and asked again what it was. So that's an unusual encounter where you've got multiple people experiencing the same phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in here about a pixie. Let me see if I can find it. Search up pixie. Okay, so this is Devon, England, 2010s. In the garden in a summer, May or July. We were walking past a large log on the left and on the lawn to our left. As we walked by, I clearly saw out of the corner of my eye a little person, dressed in brown with brown skin, perched on the end of the log. He sat with his knees up and arms wrapped around his knees, looking sideways to me and my mum. To me, he felt like he was mischievous and curious. It was a flash of a few seconds. I exclaimed to my mum, "Oh, there's a pixie," and she replied, "Yes, a pixie." We were very matter of fact about it and carried on walking and talking. When I looked more closely at the log, I saw that the place where the pixie had been sitting was the stump of a branch sticking out from the log. I felt very excited by this experience. Mum was diagnosed with cancer about 6 months after this, in the early part of 2017. So I feel that perhaps we had this experience because she was in a liminal space with her health. I've often reminded my mum of this, but recently her memory has faded. So yeah, her mum even remembers the pixie when sometimes. It had brown skin, brown clothing, brown pointed cap, short trousers, long sleeve top. So fairy encounters, believe it or not, are still happening.
Mm-hmm. What would you do if a fairy encounter happened to you?
I would try to make friends.
With them?
Yeah, give them a little snack. A thimble of milk. Maybe a thimble of honey.
honey.
Yeah. Maybe let them share an apricot tart.
Apricot.
Or some pistachio halva. Yeah, there's a lot of pixies in this document.
And pixie, pixie, pixie.
Troop of pixies or gnomes marching around the pictures. Okay, let's check this one out. 1970s. Witness says that she was 3 years old. She was in the hallway of her home and saw a troop of pixies or gnomes marching around the picture rails. There were hundreds of them marching like soldiers. They were dressed in typical fairy outfits of red and green with hats. She was so overcome with the sight that she fainted. Witnesses say that the house was also haunted by a lady dressed in green. No, actually, I want to go back to the last one where she was talking about her mother being in a liminal state. And a lot of these happen in liminal states, these encounters. And also that is something that occurred in The Boy and the Heron. The boy was constantly in liminal states and having these encounters where he was either knocked out, asleep,
had a concussion.
Yeah. And that's when these encounters would begin.
Yeah, your outer body experience.
Maybe. But does it mean that you have additional senses at play when you're in a liminal state, or is it just pure delirium?
It's pure delirium until you can test it out that it's based off of logic and of laws that govern the tangible world. But up until then, it's delirium, so you have to prove that it's not.
Yeah, and I think we do have more experiences with dreamlike states that really are just dreams, because we dream every night. So it's when you have a paranormal or supernatural occurrence that it has to set apart from those regular dreamlike states.
You have to have something tangible within your dream, otherwise it will just be passed off like a dream.
Yeah, and it is interesting that a lot of these encounters do feel very dreamlike, even with memories fading. So, yeah, it's kind of like straddling this question of was it real or not.
Yeah.
All right, I think we did a good exploration of the fairy census. We might do some further readings from it, because there's lots of good stories in here. There's 500. And we covered all of the cool, strange creatures and tied them in to Universal Laws of Folklore.
Exactly. So then that means that you already took your favorite stories from the fairy census, or you just touched on a few?
I just touched on a few. It's how many pages is this? 353 pages. I haven't gone all through it yet.
Can you search for a specific term?
Yeah, is there something you want to see?
Dragon.
Dragons, okay. Whoa. Alright, so this was the dragon type wings.
So we can continue with, not
Dragon
right now, but
fly.
do the stream on dragon fairies.
Okay, we do have a real dragon in here. Dragon slipped through and into the fairy hill.
No.
I'm just giving a preview. But yeah, I do want to do some more videos on dragons, and got some in the works to release as pre-recorded in the series of Fairies Not Fairy Tales, or Fairies Are Real. I forget the name of my own playlist.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oops.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, either live or
Unalive. No.
or post live.
Dead.
And yeah, well, actually, I'm hoping to have this podcast as an RSS feed on other podcast networks fairly soon. I think YouTube might have turned on the ability to do that. That's something I need to look into. So this podcast will be going out to a wider audience fairly soon.
Wow.
Outside of just YouTube.
Amazing.
So, hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time.
Out in the